to David.
Was my name called, David? This is David Tam. I am also the commissioner. I'm also a commissioner of the OCAPIA.
Thanks, David. Jim, you want to try going again? Okay, it's like Jim's still having audio issues. We have a number that ends in 3074. I don't know who that is. Okay. In that case, let's move on to Ben. I think Ben just hopped on. Ben, go ahead.
Carrie Boa.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. This is Quinn Reed. My apologies. I'm calling in because I have had to restart my computer, so it'll be a minute before I can join online. But this is Quinn Reed. I'm a member of EJTF and the Oregon Policy Director for the Center for Biological Diversity.
Thanks, Quinn.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ben.
Oh, sorry. I'm just staring blankly into the universe here. Good morning, everybody. Ben Duncan, he, him pronouns, representing the Commission on Black Affairs, my day jobs, Chief Diversity and Equity Officer at Multnomah County.
Then I think we'll go ahead and have Courtney go.
Hey, good morning. Kourtney Linebaugh, and I'm an assistant in the governor's office.
Thanks, Courtney.
Yeah.
I don't think Jim's able to unmute yet. But let's go ahead and go to our agency liaisons.
Joel, agency, okay, just making sure you have to click through for agency liaisons because they don't have automatic speaking roles.
Okay.
Allie, if you want to introduce yourself.
Good morning, Allie Ryan Hansen. I'm the EJ liaison from the Oregon Department of State Lands.
Hey, Mira, you want to go through? I don't think I have host access, so we'll just let you go through the agency folks. You're on mute, Amira.
Sorry about that. I just gave you host access for now, but Andy, you want to go ahead?
Yes, good morning. Andy White, he, him, his. I'm the citizen advocate with the Oregon Department of Forestry.
Great. We'll have Ben go next.
Ben Mundie, Oregon Department of Geology.
Perfect. Christina.
Good morning, everybody. Christina Higby. I am the citizen advocate and tribal liaison with the Oregon Department of Agriculture.
Courtney.
Good morning, everyone. Courtney Shaff with the Oregon Watershed Enhancement Board.
Curt.
Yeah, good morning. My name is Curt Melcher, he, him, his. I am the director of the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife.
Thanks for joining us. David.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. It's David Morrissey. I manage the Environmental Justice, Title VI, and Americans with Disabilities Act programs with the Oregon Department of Transportation, Office of Civil Rights.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Harmony.
She's still on mute. Let's try to move on. Let's try Nina and we go back to Harmony.
Hi, Chair Boa. This is Nina. I was just typing Amira. I am here, Nina Deconcini from DEQ. Thank you.
Thanks, Nina.
Good to see you.
We have Jessica next.
Did I miss anyone else? Maybe.
Rudy Owens. He's then he'll be a new citizen advocate for the Office of State Fire Marshal, so he should be on here. Oh, there he is.
Sweet. Anyone else?
Renee Stapleton with Oregon OSHA.
Thanks, Renee. Okay. For other folks, we can just have people type it in the chat. It'd be great. Big list of folks. In that case, we'll just jump right into the business. We've got a few things to cover today. We've got some updates from the governor's office regarding the budget, the legislature. I'm really excited to hear about the Racial Justice Council, specifically the Environmental Equity Council. We got some EJTF business regarding some internal processing updates, and work plan. We get a short break here in about an hour. Then we'll talk a little bit about some CAO rulemaking. We have a great presentation from the EJTF from Washington. Elise Rasmussen is joining us. Public comment, and then we'll try to close out by noon and rinse and repeat for tomorrow. So I'll go ahead and pass it over to Amira for the governor's office updates.
Great, thank you, Chair Iboa. So a lot of things have been happening in the governor's office since we last met. A couple of quick updates, and then I'll just leave it open for questions from the task force, if you all have any. We are currently in our budget cycle, trying to determine what investments will be put forward for agencies for the 21-23 biennium. That process, as you know, is being informed by the Racial Justice Council, which is a advisory council to the governor, whose charge is to look at equity across many different sectors, including housing, education, health, criminal justice reform, economic opportunity, and environmental equity. I work with Jason Miner to co-lead the Environmental Equity Council portion of, the Environmental Equity Committee out of that council. And that group has been incredibly powerful. And it's really an honor to work with all of them. Quinn and Hui have been a part of that process as well. And they've just been really great in providing recommendations for the budget. We actually had our presentation to the Racial Justice Council yesterday morning. It feels like forever ago, but it was yesterday. And I feel like it overall went really well. And environmental justice was an item that was, I believe, well served during that discussion. We're also getting ready to have our legislative session for next year and gathering up ideas. As you know, there is a draft legislative concept that would impact this body that I've shared initial information with the chair and vice chair. But for the rest of you, I'm just waiting to get the final language to share with you. It hasn't been published yet. But I can talk about what's included in that bill if you would like. And I'll open it up for questions right now and see if I can answer anything that may be on your minds.
Folks can go ahead and just unmute or just type in the chat.
Well, yeah, Amira, this is Ben. I'd be curious around what some of the key areas of focus or Hui or Quinn in terms of where the environmental equity group has and is going. And particularly if there's any relationship or work that the EJTF can do to lift up areas of focus or bolster or leverage some of the issues that are being raised, particularly for EJ folks in that group.
Absolutely. I will let you all know if that is happening. And where you can plug in. I'm sure there's quite a few areas that would be of interest to this group. I don't know if actually Quinn or Hui wants to add in anything about your experience with the committee, if you feel like sharing anything. No pressure.
Unfortunately, I haven't been able to actually attend, but I've been trying to follow the notes and yeah, so I haven't actually been able to attend.
You've been there and like giving your opinions on, I think what's being developed on the back end for sure.
Yeah, and this is Quinn. Can you hear me, Amira?
Yes, I can hear you.
I would just add, if it's okay, I think it's been a really inclusive process. I think there have been some really good conversations. I think the challenge and the benefit of the Environmental Equity Committee in particular is just that there are so many issues that needed to be covered. And so to make sure that there was expertise to cover all those issues, it was quite a large group. I think there were just over 30 people at each meeting. But the nice thing, I think, was that everyone could inform on their particular area of expertise. I think one of the things that I would call out for the task force in particular is that one of the proposals was to create a central Office of Environmental Justice. And I don't think that's the official name, but as essentially a central office that would help staff the task force. So, an office housed within the state that would coordinate very closely with the task force. And we've talked for a long time about having a task force coordinator. And I think that position would be housed in that office if we could get it created. So I think there was a lot of support for that. And I think even for folks who, weren't on the task force, there was a lot of interest in seeing this body be empowered, have more ability to influence legislation, and certainly have more financial support to be staffed. So that was pretty exciting. So that may be someplace where we want to weigh in as this moves forward. But overall, an incredible process, and huge thanks to Amira for creating all the materials and giving us a platform to make it as easy as possible to do a big job. She did an amazing job of keeping us all organized and on track.
Thanks for that, Quinn. I try to push, and I hope I'm not pushing too hard, but I just want to say thank you to you and the other committee members for just diving in and and pushing me in a way. And Ben, do you want to elaborate on your comment in the chat?
Well, I just think that Quinn gave a really good example of we have several of us here from the Advocacy Commissions, and we do have the authority to do legislative advocacy work. And so, the establishment of an office, unless it's kind of out of the governor's office specifically, will take legislative action. And so just being really mindful that, the beauty of having the Advocacy Commission representatives on this group is that relationship and in theory, collective and collaborative power. So I think, as Hui, you and Quinn and Amira, for all of you that are engaging or tracking this process, really being strategic about, where are those issues that, need or could benefit from further advocacy. So I know, Commission on Black Affairs, certainly, and for all the advocacy commissions, environmental justice is one of the areas of focus. And so being able to find ways to make that real would be great. So hopefully that makes sense.
Yes, thank you. And that's the only update I have. Unless there are more questions or comments.
Thanks, Amira. Thanks, Hui. The only question I have, Amira, if there are other legislative priorities from the governor's office that intersects with the EJTF. I know you've got that bill that you've been working on with myself and Bob, but I'm curious to see if there's anything else, within the governor's priorities that's forming that we should know about.
Yeah, so we're actually in those discussions right now. So I don't have like a comprehensive list of what that could look like. The next step from the environmental equity group in particular, will be to look at a potential legislative concept that would combine the recommendations that they're advocating for. So I'm sure that would be of interest to the task force. And I know there's lots of conversations with community groups and advocates on their bills, but I just don't know like the suite of items that are coming up yet.
Good morning, Amira. I just have a couple of questions. Many of us on the panel are on several interlocking committees and task force and commissions. And one thing that brings us all together is a legislative session in the budget. And so it's, I think, best for those of us that are involved in all those committees to synchronize what we want out of this legislation. I have the feeling it's going to be what you want out of EJ for everyone of all these groups. And so the quicker we're together, I think the better we'll be with this. So the question I have is, what's the time frame for the public disclosure of the legislation? Thank you, Amira. Thanks for all you do too.
Hi, Bob. Thank you for all you do. I actually don't have an answer on that. It shifts like every year what the deadline is. And given the challenges with COVID, I think the legislature is trying to figure out how to have like a like a proper legislative session. I'm not sure what they're planning on that side.
Thank you.
And I see a question from Ben in the chat about the notes for the RJC and the Environmental Equity Committee being posted. If Courtney's still on, I would love for her to answer that question.
Yeah, I will pull up the Racial Justice Council. They have a website, and I can put that in the chat as soon as I find that. With the smaller environmental equity group, those we haven't really been posting online. It's more of just kind of these internal conversations. I mean, of course, anything is, if anyone wants to like request public records, that's always accessible. But what the main purpose is to mainly gather all those smaller committees together and bring that information to the Racial Justice Council. So that's where you're gonna find like the bulk of that information. So I'm gonna find that and I'll post that in the chat in just a minute.
Great, thank you. That would be helpful.
Sweet. Does anyone else have questions for Amira? Okay, thanks, Amira. So now we'll move on to EJTF business. We'll start off with some internal process updates, meeting checklists. I know we've got a number of things that we talked about from last meeting. And I also want to make sure that Jim, were you able to unmute? Because I know that a lot of this stuff was things that you were interested in us sort of going through.
I think Jim needs a new passcode.
Okay.
So I can't forward my link if it's unique to me. So the one from October 23rd, if someone can send him back that link, that would probably be really helpful for him.
Please send that to Jim.
Thanks.
I don't think Jim is able to unmute yet. Jim, can you hear us?
I think he can hear you. I think he's just having audio.
Yeah, it says here he's unmuted, so but I don't think he's connected to the speaker yet. Thanks, Courtney. Appreciate you dropping that in there. Oh, we see his mic died and phone's not working.
So share really quickly. So the link that Courtney sent was the one that I had been looking at. I guess, and maybe this has been asked and answered, but I'm curious where minutes are from those meetings. So they're not, my understanding is not publicly accessible in terms of attendance, but I don't know how you track the work that's happening. So the agendas are posted, but the conversations and outputs of those conversations are not. So maybe that's what you had already said, Courtney, but I'm curious if those minutes will be shared publicly for folks to be able to track those conversations.
So I can help answer that while Courtney gets Jim situated. Or I saw that Quinn might have something to say.
Yeah, if it's okay. Then there was a conversation early on about, how to facilitate the most, open and safe environment to express ideas. And, for a number of reasons, we decided that it made sense to not make those minutes public. However, I'm wondering if, we did have some conversations about, whether or not we could share minutes within our networks. And I'm wondering if it would be appropriate, Amira or Courtney, to share it with a task force, because detailed minutes, Courtney took very, very good notes on everything. So they exist, but my impression is they are not going to be made public, because it's going to be the Racial Justice Council as a whole that is going to be the sort of the umbrella body for all of the smaller committees.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually specifically talking about the Racial Justice Council, but.
Oh, you are? Okay. Yeah, sorry, I thought you were talking about the Environmental Equity Committee.
I think that was asked and answered, and I appreciate how things are going to roll up to the council, but the council's minutes, the agendas are publicly posted, but maybe I'm just not finding it on the website, but there's no minutes there. So it doesn't seem like there's a really good ability to be able to track kind of what's coming to that group or what's coming out of that group.
And I'll see if I can get a better answer for you. I'll reach out to the coordinator of that group and see where that is and how to get access to those for the EJTF.
Thanks, Courtney. Yeah, if it's not us, it's going to be somebody else, and we're probably a more friendly audience than some of the others that will may want to look at those conversations.
Yeah, and just, I mean, working with anything, any notes at least we take with the state is always public record. So you can always request them and we can get them. That's kind of the more formal process if they're not posted online, but I'll look into it.
Seems like Jim's been blacklisted from from our meeting.
I'm wondering if he's able to call in instead of trying to log in from that computer platform.
We're so sorry, Jim. We'll get Courtney to help you with that.
Well, that would be a huge savings on this.
I do have, I believe I have the document about the standards from last time and the notes. And I don't know if we necessarily came up with a plan about how to follow up on these. I apologize all for being slow this morning. Well, I will pull this up.
Thanks, Amir.
And we can kind of at least start the conversation. Then when Jim's able to join, we'll have him fill in. I hope that's okay with the group.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Can everyone see this okay?
Yeah.
Good.
Amira, this is Bob. I just wanted to jump in on this because it might direct what you talk about in terms of the meeting structure and focus, is that depending on what that legislature says, should focus on what we should focus on in terms of transition and new roles and new spaces for EJ and state government. I think what we're setting up right now will be what goes forward with whatever happens. So I just want to make sure the group bears this in mind, that what we're doing right now could set an early structure. So we have to make sure it's very inclusive at this point. I just wanted to get my 2 cents in at this stage because the two will be related. Thank you.
Great. So this document that you're looking at was something Jim had put together to discuss the various internal areas that the task force should put forward, as Bob just described. The items highlighted in yellow are things that I believe the task force didn't come to an agreement about.
Maybe we should just start from the top then and go down. And just have a discussion about it. So I think we ran out of time last time. But I think we did talk about sort of the communication standards of, and I was just saying, like, even before COVID, it was tough, keeping track of everything, but especially now with COVID, it's really rough without more administrative assistance, to try and coordinate communication between EJTF and other EJTF members, as well as EJTF and agencies and everyone else that interacts with us. but I'm particularly interested in having conversations about the letters to the governor and sort of how we make sure that when we're sending something out that that if we agree to send something out, that we have a sort of a checklist and an internalized process of how we make sure that our agreement transfers to people, knowing that it's going to be sent over to the governor's office and that we have some sort of idea of when we'll hear back.